the Stonewall Inn, a name etched in history. In the heart of Greenwich Village, this unassuming bar was a sanctuary for many, a place where they could be themselves. In 1960s, being openly gay in the United States of America was dangerous. It was illegal in most places. People faced arrest, harassment, and even violence. The Stonewall Inn bar, despite its flaws, offered a haven for the LGBT+ community. It was a place to dance, to socialize, to find solace in a world that often felt hostile. It was a lifeline, a place where they could cast off the weight of societal disapproval and simply exist. Regulars at the Stonewall Inn formed a tight-knit community. They looked out for each other, finding strength in shared experiences and a yearning for acceptance. Despite its importance to the community, the Stonewall Inn was a frequent target of police raids. These raids, often brutal and discriminatory, were a constant threat. Police would harass patrons, checking IDs, and arresting anyone not wearing at least 3 pieces of gender-appropriate clothing. These raids were a stark of the prejudice and legal challenges faced by the LGBTQ+ community. But on one summer night in 1969, the atmosphere at the Stonewall Inn shifted. The usual raid took an unexpected turn, sparking an uprising that would change the course of history. This was the night the LGBTQ+ community decided to fight back, igniting a movement that continues to this day. The Stonewall Inn, once a symbol of oppression, would become a symbol of resilience and the ongoing struggle for equality. June 29th, 1969. The air was thick with humidity as police officers entered the Stonewall Inn. Such raids were nothing new, but this time the atmosphere was different. A palpable tension filled the air. The patrons, tired of the harassment, were on the edge. As police began their routine of checking IDs and making arrests, a sense of defiance began to ripple through the crowd. When officers started to forcefully remove some of the bar's patrons, the situation escalated. People began to resist, refusing to cooperate with the police. The crowd outside the bar, witnessing the commotion, began to swell. The situation spiraled as anger and frustration boiled over. What began as passive resistance quickly turned into a full-blown riot. People threw bottles, stones, and anything they could find at the police. The police, caught off guard by the ferocity of the response, found themselves outnumbered and outmatched. The Stonewall riots, as they would come to be known, had begun. What started as a typical police raid had ignited a firestorm of resistance, fueled by years of pent-up anger and frustration. This was not just about a bar raid. It was about dignity, about freedom, about the fundamental right to exist without fear of persecution. The streets around the Stonewall Inn became a battleground. Protesters, their chants echoing through the night, faced off against riot police. The fighting continued for hours, each clash a testament to the community's determination to be heard. The Stonewall uprising was not a planned protest. It was a spontaneous eruption of fury. Leading the charge were transgender women of color, often marginalized even within the LGBTQ+ community. Figures like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, courageous and defiant, became symbols of the uprising. They risked their lives, their bravery galvanizing others. The riots lasted for several nights. Each night, more people joined the protest. News of the uprising spread like wildfire, galvanizing the LGBTQ+ community and its allies. People from all walks of life came to Stonewall, united in their stand against oppression. The Stonewall riots were a watershed moment in LGBTQ+ history. They marked the first time that a significant number of LGBTQ+ people fought back against the system that persecuted them. The riots were a turning point, a catalyst for change. It gave birth to a movement, inspiring a new generation to fight for equality and justice. The legacy of Stonewall. A global movement ignited. The Stonewall riots were a turning point in the fight for LGBTQ+ rights. The events of those few nights in June 1969 resonated far beyond the streets of Greenwich Village. They sparked a movement inspiring the formation of LGBTQ+ rights organizations and igniting a fire for equality that continues to burn brightly today. Within a year of the riots, the first gay pride marches were held in New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago. These marches, commemorating the uprising and celebrating LGBTQ+ identity, marked the beginning of a global movement. Stonewall became a rallying cry, a symbol of resistance, and a reminder of the power of collective action. It also forced a long overdue conversation about LGBTQ+ rights into the public consciousness. Media coverage, while often sensationalized, brought the issue to the forefront. People could no longer ignore the discrimination and violence faced by the LGBTQ+ community. The legacy of Stonewall is immeasurable. It is a testament to the courage of those who stood up and fought back against injustice. It is a reminder that change is possible, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Stonewall riots were not just about bricks and bottles. They were about the fundamental right to live authentically and openly. Remembering Stonewall, a beacon of hope and resilience. Today, the Stonewall Inn stands as a monument to the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights. On June 24, 2016, President Barack Obama designated the Stonewall National Monument in anticipation of the 50th year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. The monument is the first national park site dedicated to LGBTQ+ history. The Stonewall Inn is a place of pilgrimage for LGBTQ+ people and allies from around the world. The legacy of Stonewall is not just about remembering the past, it is about continuing the fight for equality. While significant progress has been made since 1969, the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights is far from over. Discrimination, violence, and prejudice still exist, both in the United States and globally. Remembering Stonewall means honoring the bravery of those who came before us by continuing to fight for a more just and equitable world for all. It means challenging discrimination and prejudice wherever we see it. It means using our voices to amplify the voices of those who are marginalized. The Stonewall riots remind us that change is possible, but it requires constant vigilance and action. The spirit of Stonewall lives on in every act of resistance, every voice raised for equality, every step taken towards a more inclusive future. Let's honor the legacy of Stonewall by continuing to fight for a world where everyone can live free from fear and discrimination, where everyone can live openly and authentically. Thank you much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.